Friends, imagine a world where revolutions have succeeded everywhere. After the Second World War, a new global system has emerged. This world, revolutionary governments have been established in every region and all nations have been dissolved. Only three massive countries, or rather three large unions, remain. Each of these three countries is governed by a one-party system, same party that led the revolution. These are powerful regimes holding absolute authority. You can see these three nations on this simple map. The pink-colored country is Oceania, which includes Britain, the United States, and a major portion of the world. It is the largest state on the planet. To the east of Britain, the orange-colored state is Eurasia. The third green-colored state is Eastasia. The remaining part of the world, shown as unclaimed land, is the disputed territory. No revolutionary government has succeeded there, and all three giant countries constantly wage war over it. George Orwell wrote the famous novel 1984 to explain this scenario, especially since revolutionary movements were gaining momentum worldwide after the Second World War. You may have heard the word utopia, a term used to describe a perfect situation, a place where every citizen lives in ideal conditions. The opposite of that is dystopia, a place where conditions are terrible. The common people suffer immensely. This novel presents a dystopian view of what would happen if the one-party system were to fully succeed. So why is this novel still so relevant today? Why does it feel like it's describing our current reality? Once you hear the story, you'll understand perfectly. You might even regret not having read this book earlier. So friends, George Orwell writes that the three megastates have been fighting for decades to take control of the disputed territory. Yet none of them has achieved a decisive victory. The war never ends. All three countries frequently fire rockets at each other's civilian populations. People die, and after each attack, the government becomes even stronger, because there is no other option for retaliation or protection except the ruling party. Hatred between the three states runs so deep that a citizen from one country cannot enter another. If they try, they are instantly killed by border security. Even within each state, there are so many restrictions that if a citizen wants to travel even a short distance, they must have official permission. It is against this backdrop that the story of 1984 begins. The state of Oceania, specifically in Britain. Our hero Winston Smith lives in London in a province called Airstrip 1. He is a member of the party, ruling one-party system, simply referred to as the party. The party's ideology is known as English socialism, which is abbreviated as INGSOC, combining English and socialism. The first letter I stands for English. The party has invented a new language in which English is spelled with an I instead of an E. This new language is called Newspeak, while traditional English is referred to as Old Speak. Newspeak has been specifically designed to contain the fewest words possible. That is, its vocabulary is intentionally very limited. Any words with multiple meanings have been removed. The purpose of this new language, designed by the party, is to prevent anyone from speaking against the party, even indirectly or in code. Every word spoken by a Newspeak speaker has only one clear meaning. The idea behind Newspeak is to make it immediately obvious whether a person's loyal to or rebellious against the party. This helps the party detect traitors, loyalists instantly, and treat them accordingly. According to the novel, the government plans to fully implement Newspeak by the year 2050, after which Old Speak will be completely abolished. Speaking or writing in Old Speak will be considered a crime. Until then, citizens are being trained in Newspeak. The supreme leader of this party is known as Big Brother. His posters are plastered all over London. No other posters or pictures are allowed. Only Big Brother's image is everywhere. His posters appear on staircases, elevators, streets, homes, and utility poles. So many and so large that people begin to feel like Big Brother is always watching. And the posters are designed in such a way that Big Brother appears to be staring at you with large, round eyes, no matter where you are. Anyone who looks at the poster feels as if Big Brother is watching them. It's a powerful psychological tactic used by the party to keep control over the people. But in reality, no one has ever seen Big Brother in public. No one knows whether he is a real person or just a symbolic figure created by the party. Winston Smith and many others like him tried but failed to discover the truth about Big Brother. Now, Winston Smith belongs to the outer part of the party, called the Outer Party. This section includes the regular workers who do the party's work but have no role in decision-making. There is another section within the party called the Inner Party. This smaller group controls the state and makes all major decisions. Its members enjoy immense privileges compared to regular workers like Winston. They receive the best salaries, live in luxurious homes, eat gourmet food, and wield power over others. On the other hand, workers like Winston Smith have no value. They are overworked and underpaid. Sometimes Winston doesn't even have enough to eat. He is injured and must climb 13 floors to reach his apartment because the elevator never works. In his apartment, there's a device similar to a TV called a telescreen that appears to broadcast government news and announcements. But in reality, it is a surveillance device used by the party. This telescreen monitors Winston 24/7, tracking his movements, facial expressions, and even his voice tone. Any of his expressions suggest dissatisfaction. Government has the authority to take action against him. Even thinking against the party is forbidden. The party doesn't just monitor actions, it controls thoughts. This is called thought policing. In Oceania, there is an official thought police. Their job is to detect and arrest party members who even think rebellious thoughts. If anyone is caught thinking against the party, they are made to disappear, vanished without a trace. All official records about them are erased as if they never existed. Even their family and friends stop mentioning them, out of fear of the party. Winston's own parents and his little sister disappeared in this exact way when he was a child. He never saw them again, and no one ever spoke of them. He grew up in an orphanage and eventually joined the party like everyone else. The telescreen in each home can never be turned off, only dimmed for a short time. Trying to switch it off completely invites terrifying consequences. So no ordinary worker even thinks about turning it off. Apart from thought policing, the party uses another method to catch rebels. It trains children in schools to spy on their parents. So if a parent says even one wrong thing against the party, the child might report it to their school, which then informs the thought police. Such children are portrayed as heroes in public. They're given awards and celebrated. In the novel, one of Winston's colleagues named Parsons was arrested by the authorities because his 7-year-old daughter overheard him mumbling something against Big Brother in his sleep. She joyfully reported it to her teacher, thinking she had done something good. Parsons was arrested and never seen again. In this atmosphere of extreme surveillance, Winston Smith is also deeply troubled. His telescreen watches him constantly, so he must always act cheerful and active, show his support for the party. Even when he has to climb 13 floors with an injured leg, Winston, deep inside, is guilty of the crime of thinking against the party. He believes the party's policies are wrong and that Someone must rise up against them. He thinks that the common people, those not part of the party, could potentially start a rebellion. But the problem is that these people have been deliberately kept so backward that they are incapable of political thought. The party calls these common people proles, similar to the term proletariat used in communism, the working class. George Orwell likely derived the term from there. The party doesn't treat the proles any better than animals. They are left to their own devices and have no role in governance. They are completely irrelevant. They live like a massive ignorant crowd with no awareness or means to change their condition. They don't have access to books or literature, nor the time to organize or plan a rebellion. That's exactly what suits the party. That's why the party doesn't need to monitor the proles. There are no telescreens in their homes, nor any special surveillance system, because the system that keeps them ignorant and busy, fully operational. So no surveillance is needed. Now, friends, Winston Smith wishes deep inside that the poor people would rise up against the party. He visits public places, silently observes their suffering. He keeps a diary in which he records his thoughts against the party and writes about the individuals in the party whom he personally hates. He tries to do this out of view of the telescreen, but deep inside he fears that one day the thought police catch him. Still, he doesn't stop, because writing in his diary is his only outlet for releasing his frustration. The year 1984, as he writes in his diary, he reflects on how everything happening in his time should be documented, so that future generations will know how the party made mistakes and where they went wrong. 1984. This is the year when Winston Smith starts writing his diary. This act is a big crime. Even though he has hidden it from the telescreen, still, writing a diary is considered thought crime. Thought crime means to think against the party. This crime cannot be proven through evidence, because it is a matter of the mind. No document, no recording, no statement is needed. Someone is caught thinking against the party. Just this alone is enough to make them disappear. Winston knows this very well. But despite that, he writes against the party in his diary. And that too in old speak. He expresses his emotion. He writes that he hates Big Brother. Winston knows that this is not just a crime. It is actually a thought crime. Its punishment is death. But he still writes. And friends, when he starts writing his thoughts in the diary, from that moment onward, his mental state begins to change. He realizes how much falsehood is filled in the party's claims, how history is rewritten every day, how the past is erased, how newspapers are changed. And the department in which Winston Smith works is the Ministry of Truth. Its task is to rewrite truth, which means to create fake news. The headlines of the past, reports of the past, all of them, are regularly altered. Newspapers and records are rewritten, so that whatever the party is saying today, it seems that it has always been saying this only. If the party says today that we have always been at war with Eurasia, then all the newspapers are altered to show that Eurasia has always been the enemy. If tomorrow it says that we are friends with Eurasia, enemies with Eastasia, then all the records will be changed again. And this change is done so masterfully that the public does not even realize it. People believe that the current truth has always been the truth. The same work is done in the Ministry of Truth, where Winston Smith works as a clerk. Every day he receives files, which he rewrites, throws the old pages into the memory hole, where it is immediately incinerated, turned into ashes. In this way, every lie becomes truth, because no one can prove the old version anymore. No one has any proof has any memory, members, then that person is mentally ill. Because the party says reality exists only in the mind and not in any document. In this way, the Ministry of Truth produces lies every day. But because these lies are written by the state, they become truth. And friends, this is not just about rewriting newspapers and history. This is about controlling minds. Because when people lose track of the past, then they become confused about the present. When someone cannot understand the present, then he can never imagine a better future. And a person who cannot imagine a better future never rebel. This is the philosophy of the party. Now, Winston Smith was doing this work daily, starts feeling hatred towards his own job. He begins to understand that this is not work. This is fraud. This is deception with the people. That's why he secretly writes the truth in his diary. He wishes that one day the people may rise and topple this false system. But he does not know how this can happen. Friends, the story of the novel continues with this hope, this rebellion, this desire for freedom, and this struggle against the one-party system. This is the moment when Winston Smith sees a girl. She's a young girl with dark brown hair. She is wearing a red sash, the Anti-Sex League. This is a government organization that keeps people away from sex so that people only love the party. Winston initially thinks this girl is a party agent. He suspects that maybe this girl is spying on him, so he stays away from her. But a few days later, the same girl gives Winston a piece of paper on which it is written, "I love you." This sentence shocks Winston. He can't believe that someone could love him. But now he wants to get close to this girl. One day they meet in the forest where there are no telescreens. The first time they speak openly to each other. Then they fall in love. The girl's name is Julia. She also hates the party, but she only hates it. She has no interest in rebellion or revolution. On the other hand, Winston wants there to be a secret organization that works against the party. He wants to be part of it. So they both meet a party member named O'Brien. He tells them that there really is a secret organization called the Brotherhood. Its leader is Goldstein. O'Brien assures them that he is also part of this organization, and he gives them a book written by Goldstein. This book explains how the world is being controlled and how the three superpowers, Oceania, Eurasia, and Eastasia, are always at war, so that internal control can be maintained. Winston and Julia are deeply impressed by this book. They feel that now they have the truth. They have become part of a greater cause. Friends, the story takes a terrifying turn here. One day, suddenly the police arrive and arrest Winston and Julia. It was all a trap. O'Brien was actually a party agent. Winston is taken to the Ministry of Love, where he is tortured physically and mentally. O'Brien himself tortures him and tells him that the truth is only what the party says. If the party says 225, then you must believe it. This sentence is the essence of the novel. It is the peak of power where truth, lies, and reality are all under the party's control. Winston is broken to the point that he starts to accept everything. He even begins to hate Julia. He is told, until your mind thinks according to the party, you cannot be free. Finally, Winston starts to love the party. He begins to love Big Brother with all his heart. At the end of the novel, he is sitting in a cafe. On TV, praises of Big Brother are being aired. He starts crying with joy. because now he truly loves Big Brother. The story of the 2 minutes. Hate is also very interesting and tragic. Winston, the party member, once had an important leader in his party named Goldstein. But his mistake was that he started criticizing party policy. He informed people that the party had deviated from the path of revolution. But what happened was that this man himself was removed from the path. He disappeared and has never returned from the list of missing persons. Since then, the party has continuously propagated that Goldstein is not only alive, but he is operating from the opposing power, Eurasia or Eastasia, and is taking actions against the party. The party constantly spreads this propaganda that Goldstein is not only alive, but he is sitting with the enemy forces of Eurasia or Eastasia, is planning to take over Oceania in collaboration with them. It is also said that Goldstein has established a powerful secret organization within Oceania, which conspires against the party's rule. This secret organization is known as the Brotherhood. People whom the government arrests on suspicion of rebellion are declared members of this organization and are publicly given a harsh punishment or even killed. Every day, a 2 minutes hate ceremony is held in government offices against Goldstein. All employees gather in a large hall, and a propaganda documentary against Goldstein is played on a big telescreen. This documentary is made in such an emotional manner that no one watching it can resist hating Goldstein. Even Winston, who knows it is all propaganda, finds himself temporarily hating Goldstein. In this very 2 minutes hate ceremony, Julia is also present. Her attitude towards Goldstein is extremely intense. She throws whatever she is holding in her hands at the screen in rage and hatred. While she is expressing hatred at that very moment, Winston secretly watches her with love. But he also thinks to himself that Julia would never love him, because she is completely immersed in love for the party. Chastity is her ideology. Winston, in despair, starts hating Julia in return. In a fit of intense emotion, he even thinks that if he gets the chance, he might kill Julia. Sometime later, the secret is revealed to him. Julia is just like him. The Julia who chants slogans of chastity is actually pretending all to stay in the party, gain benefits from it. She only shows the government that she supports the party's ideology, that she stays away from men. But in reality, she has secretly shared moments of love with many party members like herself. Now the story takes a turn, friend. And one day, Julia also. She secretly hands him a piece of paper, which her feelings are written. Reading this paper makes Winston very happy. His heart becomes clean toward Julia. He abandons his vague intention of killing her, now starts meeting her in secret. Both of them begin sharing their anti-party thoughts openly, because now they are getting opportunities, though rare, but they do get them. However, there is still a difference between the two. Winston thinks about overthrowing the party, whereas Julia's opinion is that clashing with the party is foolish. The party is too powerful and we are too weak. Its government will never fall. We should just secretly collect our share of happiness and keep living life this way. For these limited desires, she grows closer to Winston. But standing in the way of both, the obstacle of telescreen. Both are party members. Both of their houses have telescreens, though they can't meet at their home. Winston comes up with a solution that in a public area, that is in the trolls area, where there are no telescreens, he rents a room. This room is built above an antique shop. The owner has known Winston for quite some time. This very room becomes their temporary paradise. Start meeting here secretly, away from the party. Here comes another twist in the story. Third character enters their lives is O'Brien, member of the inner party. Winston is from the outer party, which consists of the lower level members. And the inner party is the core of the party that actually runs the party in such a big country. So this O'Brien is a member of the inner party. Winston believes that O'Brien is a member of the anti-party secret organization, Brotherhood. That he is a member of the Brotherhood working secretly to overthrow the party's government. This is what Winston believes. That's why Winston wants to get close to it, fight against the party. He also convinces Julia to become a member of the Brotherhood. So this couple goes to O'Brien's house to meet him. There is also a telescreen in O'Brien's house, but upon their arrival, he turns it off. Even though turning off the telescreen is very dangerous, O'Brien tells Winston that senior members of the inner party have the authority to turn off the telescreen for half an hour. Now Winston and Julia begin to talk to O'Brien freely. O'Brien tells them that he is indeed a member of the Brotherhood, that the rebel Goldstein is truly alive. He also gives them a book which, according to O'Brien, was written by Goldstein. Then he asks them if they are both ready to become part of the Brotherhood. They both say yes. O'Brien asks them further questions such as, are you ready to kill someone or commit such acts of destruction that could lead to people being killed? That is, if you are given the responsibility to target any party office or rally, will you fulfill it? They both say yes, we are ready, because bringing down the party is very necessary. Brian asks, are you ready to betray your country, help other powers? They both again reply in the affirmative. After such questions and answers, Brian allows them to leave. They both return and begin making plans for rebellion. Winston, by reading Goldstein's book, which O'Brien had given him, tries to learn more about the ruling party. But he doesn't find anything new in the book. Everything in it, what he already knows, what is already in his mind. During this time, 8 weeks begins. That is, 2 minutes. 8 happens daily, and 8 week is a separate event. This propaganda is done against Eurasia, the enemy state of Oceania. Celebrating 8 week, preparations are made on a governmental level. Throughout London, huge posters of Eurasia's soldiers are put up so that the public can see them, express hatred towards them. Not long ago, Oceania had a glorious victory against Eurasia. This happened when Eurasia's army was defeated in the Indian region of Malabar. Oceania took control over that area. So in this context, posters are put up all over London celebrating the defeat of the enemy Eurasia, victory of Oceania. The entire week is filled with anti-Eurasia speeches, children's programs, public demonstrations. In these demonstrations, effigies of the alleged rebel Goldstein are burned. Posters of Eurasian soldiers are set on fire. But these demonstrations turn into riots. In the chaos, many shops are looted. An elderly couple is accused of being foreign spies, burned alive in their own home. This is the impact of propaganda. Winston and Julia, though unwilling, publicly participate in this hate week and attend its official events. But on the 6th day, with just a few hours left before the end of hate week, a sudden announcement is made. Eurasia is no longer the enemy. Eastasia is. Eurasia is now our ally. Immediately, all official events are adjusted to align with this new narrative. Historical records begin to be rewritten. Among the proles, the ordinary people, no one questions how the enemy suddenly changed. For days they had been denouncing Eurasia, and now, miraculously, Eurasia is a friend, Instead, astonishingly, like programmed robots, people begin to denounce Eastasia with the same passion they had for Eurasia. When this change is announced, Winston is attending a public rally at a central London square. Thousands are present. An inter-party member is delivering a fiery speech against Eurasia. But mid-speech, he receives a message that Eastasia is now the enemy. He immediately shifts gears and starts spewing venom against Eastasia with the same fervor. The crowd reacts instantly. They tear down posters and banners against Eurasia and begin chanting, "Down with Eastasia! Down with Eastasia!" No one questions how this change came about. If Eastasia was always the enemy, then why had they been cursing Eurasia? Past 6 days. No one dares ask. They've never been taught to question. They've been raised in fear and blind devotion, without the courage or mindset required to ask questions. And so, 8 weekends. Winston and Julia meet again in their room above the antique shop. One day, while they are alone in the room, police break down the doors and windows and storm in. They are arrested. It is then that the terrifying truth is revealed. The shop owner is actually a secret police officer. The room, which seemed to be free of telescreens, actually had a hidden one. All of their actions and conversations had been recorded. So their arrest comes after thorough surveillance and solid evidence. After the arrest, they are kept in separate locations. Winston has no idea where Julia is. Julia doesn't know where Winston is. In fact, Winston doesn't even know where he is being held. But he does find out one thing. O'Brien, whom he had believed to be a member of the Brotherhood, is actually a loyal member of the party's inner circle. O'Brien had trapped both Winston and Julia. The thought police had been monitoring Winston for a long time, suspecting that he was guilty of thought crime against party policy. So O'Brien tricked him into revealing his rebellious thoughts under the pretense of joining the Brotherhood. Even the book that O'Brien had given him, supposedly written by Goldstein, was actually written by O'Brien himself. The book was a trap designed to lure in party dissenters. Confessions Winston made at O'Brien's house about being willing to commit murder and betray the party had all been recorded. With all this evidence, there was no way for Winston to deny any of the charges. Ironically, just like the Ministry of Truth is responsible for spreading lies, there is also a Ministry of Love, which is, in reality, the department where political prisoners are tortured. Winston believes he is being held in the underground chambers, the Ministry of Love. There he is subjected to extreme torture. He is forced to confess to crimes he never committed. Just to escape the pain, he admits to all accusations, even plotting conspiracies and murders against the party. The constant torture ruins his health. Though still young, he begins to look like an old man. His willpower is shattered to the point that he agrees to anything just to avoid more pain. Once the torturers are sure that Winston no longer poses a threat, they hand him over to Brian. Brian then begins a scientific process of brainwashing. He plays mind games with Winston, an essential part of reprogramming someone mentally. Through logical arguments, Brian tries to force Winston to love the party, and Winston's release is conditional upon this transformation. Brian tells the captured Winston that the party's rule is eternal, undefeatable, that it can never fall. The party is a perfect, ideal dictatorship, an ideal model of governance. Our individual lives have no importance compared to the party. The party is the whole. We are just its parts. If a party member dies, it doesn't matter. What matters is that the party lives on. Every member must see the party as absolute, eternal, and unchallengeable. Even in solitude, a person must think in favor of the party. Man is mortal. The party is immortal. O'Brien tells Winston, "Ask me anything. Raise any argument against the party. I will give you an answer." Winston brings up various questions and expresses his doubts. He even tries to predict the downfall of the party. But O'Brien, with cunning intelligence, refutes every argument, tries to solidify Winston's belief in the party. Eventually, Winston starts to believe that the party is indeed immortal. Every member must live and die solely for the party. This is the only path to a better world for all humanity. Questioning the party is not just rebellion. It is an unthinkable crime. The party may make mistakes, but it can never be wrong. Therefore, questioning the party is a deeply vile and forbidden act. Any doubts must be directed toward one's own understanding, never toward the party. Winston begins to believe that even thinking critically about the party is not just wrong, but a sin, crime. During the brainwashing process, Brian tells Winston the story of the three party leaders whose photograph Winston once seen. Leaders who were accused of traveling to an enemy nation but were actually attending a public event in New York. O'Brien reveals that these three were also tortured and mentally broken. Eventually, they too accepted all accusations the party made against them, believing them to be true, the party's greater good. Before they could change their minds or develop rebellious thoughts again, they were executed immediately. In this way, Winston departs from the world as a loyal follower of the party, something that is considered an honor in this world. He is told that Julia too surrendered before the party while in captivity. In fact, she changed her mind in favor of the party so quickly and completely that it was unprecedented. Thus, through his carefully crafted words, Brian weaves a web that eventually forces Winston, whether genuinely or by sheer performance, to start loving the party. Yet deep in his heart, he still loves Julia. But O'Brien sees through this too. As you already know, in the party's ideology, loving anyone other than the party is a crime. The party comes first and the party comes last. To eliminate this virus of love, Winston is ordered to be transferred to room 101. Now, this is a room where Winston had previously seen many prisoners being taken. Something about this room was so terrifying that prisoners would begin to tremble with fear just upon hearing its name. They would scream, beg, and plead not to be sent there. But the guards would drag them away nonetheless. Winston had once asked O'Brien what was in this room, but O'Brien gave a vague response and fell silent. And now it was Winston's turn to visit this very room, to have the love virus removed from his heart. He is taken into room 101. Here each prisoner is tortured with the one thing they are most psychologically afraid of. Winston fears rats, so a cage is brought in containing starving rats that feed on human flesh and blood. Winston is strapped to a chair bolted to the floor, much like the electric chairs used for executions. O'Brien brings the cage closer to Winston, and Winston starts screaming in terror. He begs, saying, "Do anything you want of me, but not this." But O'Brien straps the cage right in front of Winston's face, so close that only a few inches remain between him and the hungry rats. The rats' sharp teeth and gaping mouths drain the last drop of courage from Winston's soul. In utter fear and desperation, he screams, "Don't do this to me. Do it to Julia instead. Let the rats loose on her. Do whatever you want to her, but leave me alone." And the moment he says this, his love for Julia vanishes from his heart. His fear kills his love. O'Brien had orchestrated this psychological torture exactly for this purpose, to make Winston turn against the one he loved the most, so that no love remains in his heart except for the party. Only the party should matter, first and last. Love and hatred must be directed only toward the party, or not exist at all. O'Brien succeeds in his goal. After this, he removes the rat cage from Winston's face, because Winston's brainwashing is now complete. Following this final act, Winston is released. But this freedom is only symbolic and temporary. Before his release, he is clearly informed that the government releases such rebels only to arrest them again later, force them to confess to crimes they didn't commit, and then execute them publicly. This is done so that the public truly believes the party only arrests people based on justice, and that anyone who is punished must have genuinely committed crimes. The party is righteous. The traitors are evil. Look, they're confessing themselves. Winston is also released under this same policy. In other words, he is now to await his death, knowing that it will benefit the party. Soon the party will place some fabricated charge against him, and Winston will gladly accept it and embrace death. He will do this because the party, the only hope of mankind, must endure, because the party is eternal and man is mortal. Along with this nominal freedom, Winston is given a meaningless job, ironically much higher paying than his previous one. He becomes a member of a subcommittee whose task is to decide whether commas should go inside brackets or outside. He starts frequenting a hotel where people usually go after being imprisoned and released for rebellion. The reason he goes there is because no one else accepts him anywhere. People avoid him, fearing that they too might be arrested for simply associating with Winston. One day, while walking along a desolate road in harsh weather, Winston sees Julia for the last time. Both admit that during the unbearable torture, they had betrayed each other. Without looking at each other, they go their separate ways. Winston walks a fair distance, then turns back to look, but Julia has vanished into the crowd. He returns to the hotel. On the hotel's telescreen for several days, there are announcements that an enemy army is advancing in Africa, and that several key African regions are slipping out of Oceania's control. Winston listens to these reports and thinks to himself that the enemy forces could be defeated if they were encircled from the rear. A few days later, the telescreen announces that the enemy was indeed encircled and destroyed from behind. Exactly what Winston had imagined had happened. With this announcement, the people of London pour into the streets celebrating Oceania's victory. Winston too feels a strange sense of happiness. His heart also wants to sing and dance, but he doesn't. Instead, he simply sits in his place and taps his foot, enjoying the victory quietly. And at this very moment, Winston's end begins. He is arrested and taken back to the Ministry of Love. He is brought before the people and accused of numerous fabricated crimes. He accepts every single charge. He then walks down a long corridor accompanied by an armed executioner. Ahead of him is a wall on which Big Brother, with his giant eyes, is staring down at him. For the first time, Winston notices that beneath Big Brother's mustache, the corners of his lips are turned upward. He is smiling. At that very moment, a bullet rushes toward Winston. And in that final moment, all of Winston's inner conflict about seeking truth dissolves. He feels that he loves Big Brother. With that, the bullet pierces his brain, splattering blood like paint on the wall. Winston has finally come to love Big Brother, because Big Brother is eternal. Winston was mortal. Friends, the ending of this novel is a tragedy. A warning given in 1984, written in 1949, partially came true in the dictatorships of countries like North Korea, Iran, and others. And if artificial intelligence ever falls into the hands of a dictator, believe me, a situation even more terrifying than this novel could arise. The hallmark of a great novel is that it not only reflects its own era, but its story becomes relevant again and again in the future. Every era feels like it was written about them. That this is happening here too, or could happen. Another such brilliant novel by George Orwell, Animal Farm, we also covered in great detail, and you can watch on our channel.